Hey, everybody. I'm Katie Platty, the studio manager at the Kalamazoo Book Arts Center. Thank you so much for coming to our, I don't know, this is the 16th annual Illustrated Accordion exhibit. And we've been meeting up this way since COVID. So it's really nice to see you all. We're going to be sharing our work. Some people have sent me the information already. Other people will be screen sharing. If you have a problem and you can't see something, please just let us know right away. And I'm going to try to also pin what is being seen so that we all see the same thing. This is our 20th year of being the Book Arts Center in Kalamazoo, and we're just really happy to be doing this again. Jerry, since you have a video ready to go, would you like to get started by showing your accordion book?
Sure.
Okay, great.
If I can figure out where the share my screen is.
Yep, it should be the green button at the bottom with the arrow.
The one that says share.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is just 41 seconds. It's just a flip through of the book. All right. Am I working here?
Not yet. I think you need to, okay, now you are. You're good.
Okay. And that is the book. It's 10 feet long if it's stretched out all the way. So by the way, I wanted to say thank you to whoever did the photos of it, because as you probably guessed from the video, I'm not a great photographer. And whoever did it displayed it better than I would have.
Thank you. I should say that to everybody that the person who took all the photos this year was Cal, one of our interns. So I was really grateful. She's a better photographer than me too. So I was grateful that she did that for us.
Thank you. Thanks, Lori.
Do you want to talk at all about how you made the prints?
Oh, I'll be happy to if anybody wants to hear it. So they were all done on a large gel plate. So I did about, what was it, an 18 by 24. So basically I could print about 2 feet wide at a time. And I just did repeating layers with both botanicals and also most of the stencils were stencils that I cut myself from my own drawings. Some of the skull masks in that were created by someone else. But yeah, so that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, yes. Rose?
Rose. I just feel like there's a story in that book with the skulls. I'm just wondering if there is a story or whether it was just an image, not just an image produced book. I mean, it's beautiful. I really like it. But
Thank you.
I felt with the skulls, there was a story.
It's really just an image-based thing, and it's funny you say that because I also paint watercolors, and people will often say, "Oh, there's definitely a story behind that." But often just my intention was I saw something, I liked it, I think I'd like to try to paint that. So I don't know. I must have stories I don't know about that I managed to convey through images. But thank you.
Thank you.
How did you choose the colors?
Well, purple is my favorite, and I needed something dark to contrast with it, so I used Payne's gray and purple.
Well, I thought the colors were just beautiful.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any more comments? Oops, I thought I turned off my mouse. Sorry about that loud noise. Lori, would you like to go next? Is that going to work okay with you?
I can do it. Are you going to show my book or am
Is
I?
that okay with you? If I,
Yeah.
okay, sure.
I mean,
So I'm-
otherwise, I have photos, there's still photos, and I can go through it and do a share screen, but it's up to you.
Either's fine with me. I can hold it up or you can share the screen, whichever you'd prefer.
Why don't I just do a share screen maybe?
Great.
Okay. Okay, you can see that?
Yep.
Okay, so mine is a book, a star tunnel book, called Day in the Jeweled City, and it's made, so that's it closed up. These are little paper beads that I made to help cinch it. So the idea is I had carved this rubber stamp that was like a street scene, and then I used the Kaleidocolor ink pads that are gradated, and I used on the streets, on the buildings, so that there would be like the feeling of different times of the day. And then I went into my stamp collection and pulled out sun stamps and clouds and stuff like that, to try to give a sense of, the sun rising in the morning. That's an overview of it in the star shape. So that's the first, I think that's I believe this is the morning, and then the sun is coming up. It's not fully up yet. Now it's blazing in the middle of the day, hot sun, hot time in the summertown city. The sun's going down. I painted the background paper with watercolor just to get a sense of the sky as it changes. And now it's evening with clouds and the moon. And that's the front cover is sort of the, mid-afternoon, mid-morning, say, and then the back is the evening. Let me see. And I think now I'm just getting repetitive. Yeah, it's just repetitive. Okay, sorry. So I can stop sharing unless anybody wants to go back to see something else.
Someone asked that I hold it up just to see the scale,
Okay.
so that's
All right, let me do a stop share. Okay.
I'll pin myself first.
You have to spotlight yourself,
Oh,
not.
spotlight. Yep, sorry. Okay. So you can see it's a nice small book.
Yeah, I think it's maybe 3 or 4 inches. I just honestly can't remember.
Yeah, I'd say about 3.
I think it's roughly 3 by 3. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. Any questions or comments?
Thank you.
No questions, but it's really beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oops.
Oh, Joe is next.
Well, before we move on, I just want to say, Lori, that was one of my favorite books in the show. I really loved it, and I love houses, and I just thought you did such a beautiful job. I mean, I just really admired that book a lot.
Thank you very much. I can add a little bit about the stamp carving. I was taking the deep dive into block printing from Allie Becker. She's 3-dotted penguins on Instagram. She's out of Switzerland, and she taught us how to, basically get one edge to line up with the other edge so that it becomes continuous. And by doing that, I was able to carve that stamp, not really having a plan for it. I like the idea of, different shapes and sizes of buildings. So I did that. And then I started playing with it and getting, trying to figure out how to create. I'm not sure if it was completely clear, but there's in the background of each page, there's a second layer of the stamps, so that, you know, it isn't just the one storefront, you know, seen on the street. There's, as if the city goes on, you know, at least to one more layer. Anyway, so I had a lot of fun playing with it and playing with those ink pads, which I love, and just trying to figure out how to create that sense of moving through the day. And it just basically came out of this class that I was taking. Yeah, it's always interesting to me how things emerge, you know, what it is that prompts you to produce something. And I rarely, you know, start out with, I'm going to do this book. It's usually something sparks my interest and I move from there, and then I create a book. Anyway, I think that's interesting. And Helen was referring to it, I think, a different show, which was the New England Book Arts Building Books exhibit last year. It was there. Is that what you were referring to, Helen?
No, I was just referring to the book you just showed.
Right. I think that this was exhibited in the New England
Yes, it
Book.
was.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
And
really wonderful in person because you do get to see that extra layer of it's a layered accordion. It's
Yeah.
got that extra, you know, component that if you see it frontally in these photos, you're not. I think there was one or two in the slideshow that showed it at an angle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it was lovely.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Joe, I saw you a second ago. Oh, there you are. Thank you for waving. That helps. So did you want me to hold yours up, or
Whatever's
Or-
easiest for you. Mine's small.
I'll hold it up because I
Okay.
have it right next to me, if that's okay with you.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so you can talk while I'm showing it if you'd
Okay.
like. And it's gonna give me.
I used tangling, as in the Zentangle method. I used tangling a lot for content, and I had taken a book with Bonnie Stahlecker, who's Blue Lizard Studio in Indiana, called the Whip Stitch Binding, which was based on the old slate tablets that people used to write with chalk on like 100, 125 years ago when they were learning. And the stitching doesn't show up on that one as well. So I did bring this one to show, which I can do.
Yeah, I'll switch over to you.
So you can see this, the whip stitch binding. I think that's showing up a little bit better now because I've got purple on blue. So I thought that was an interesting part of it. So after we did the two that we did in the workshop, I thought this would be a perfect vehicle. I need little squares. So then I had to design based on what I had learned in class. I had to design the little square pages and how to get the frames and go through the whole design process. So it's a very simple book, but it took a long time to actually put together, but I was real pleased with it. And then I got to put some of my tangles in it. And I like gold, so the black and white and the gold. The paper is not made by me. I did purchase the background paper, but then I had to figure out how to drill holes and all the rest of it. So I had a lot of fun putting it together. And I had been in this show in 2012 with another book that was tangling. And so I thought, oh, it's about time for me to enter the show again. So I did. And that's about all I've got to say.
Can you hold up your example again? I was trying to spotlight myself.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
let me show the front of it. There we go.
I love the way that she sewed it together. I think it looks great. And I love the thickness of the boards covered like that.
Yeah.
The images in there. It just adds a lot of.
It
You
just goes in any shape. It's very versatile. I mean, you can fold it forward, you can fold it backwards. It's just a really, really cool design. Everybody that sees this design really likes it. I said the whole idea from when Bonnie developed it was these stitching along the boards that would hold the slate in on the old slate where people learned how to write. So
I like
it's
the
based
uneven
in history.
edge.
Please?
I'm sorry. I like the uneven edge of that too. That's the chunkiness and
Yeah.
yeah, it feels good.
Right. Yeah.
Lovely.
It's a very, you like to hold it. It's a very nice book.
Yeah.
Also in the one that you sent, I love the little frames, how you, I don't know if you carved them out or you,
Actually, what I did is I cut links and then glued them all around to create the frames. That was easier than actually trying to cut them out because the board was so thick. But that took a while to figure out how to do as well. So yeah, like I said, it was a lot to design it. I mean, she had showed us how to make the book, but then to make your own book from scratch is a very interesting, sometimes hard process. So I was very pleased with the result and thought, this needs to be seen. And the binding itself needs to be seen. So those are two of the reasons I entered it in the book show.
Yeah, I love it.
Thank
Any
you.
more questions or comments? Oh, someone else is here.
Joe, what did you call that binding again?
It's a whip stitch accordion. And if you go to Blue Lizard Studio, that is run by Bonnie Stahleifer, she's in Plainfield, Indiana. I can't guarantee this, but she has a number of her books on her website, and you'll probably be able to see more examples of it. But it's just whip stitch binding, and that's it. It's a matter of sewing. You go through at an angle to get the first stitch through, and then after that, because you're sewing from this hole to that one, and that's how it gets that shows it better. That's how you get the angle. And the angle, you really don't have to work at it. If you've got your holes set up correctly, they just kind of line themselves up automatically. So it's very cool. The sewing, once you understand it, is very easy to do, and it holds it together very nicely, but it also folds nice and flat.
It's lovely. It's similar, if not identical, I can't tell, to the baseball stitch binding.
Might be. I have no idea. But
Which
you're
I
right,
got
it does kind of remind you of what goes around a baseball, doesn't it?
Right. I got it from Ginger Burrell, and I love that binding also. It does that movement. So I'm sure it's identical, but
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
So next is Christina, and I'm going to screen share your images for you. Is that good?
That works for me.
I'm going to start right now, and you can just talk as I'm doing it.
Okay, I'm excited to be back again this year. I always enjoy doing this show, and the artist talks are nice to hear everybody and say hi. So a lot of familiar faces in the show. I'm one of the co-founders, and I just became the past president of New England Book Artists, and we've got a big crew of us in the group too. So To Have and to Hold is a two-sided paper marbling. It's a little more experimental with a whole lot of link stitch. It's not exactly embroidery. This is French linen, so it's a real coarse bookbinding thread being added, and some twig components kind of bearing down on the top. For me, it's a conceptualized dual narrative of sorts. So even though it's exactly the same stitches, obviously through the paper on both sides, there's two extremely different kind of perspectives being presented. You could think of it in a lot of different ways. Putting To Have and to Hold on it kind of forces it into some kind of a marital situation for people's minds. That is in my head. I've been married for a long time, and anyone who's been married for a long time knows there's a struggle and an ebb and a flow, and there is a burden. So the twigs are, I don't know, they're decorative, but they are a burden. They're kind of tangled up in everything and putting pressure and weight upon things. Yeah, there's organic shapes. There's a little bit of beauty, but to me, there's also some jagged kind of course corrections and interruptions, and there's a whole lot of different things going on for it to me. So I kind of enjoy that. I also kind of enjoy the idea that paper marbling and bookbinding have had a kind of marriage of sorts through quite a bit of history in the arts, and that kind of plays with me as well. So it's, there's a little bit of tradition, but not much. So it's kind of like taking new ideas on how marbling would fit into the marriage with the books in a new way, maybe. So there's a lot of ideas going on here. I think there's an interesting balance. It's just beautiful in and of itself, I think, on some levels. So, that could be thought of as the struggle within a marriage being ultimately not just a dance, but a duel, maybe. I don't know. There's a whole lot of ways to think about it. Yeah. I'm getting more conceptual as I get older. Yeah, I don't know.
Thank you. I'm gonna stop the share. So are there any questions for Christina?
I was just thinking it looks like a map. I did put that in the chat, but it has a lovely feeling, perhaps a star map or a heavenly map as opposed to a earthly map. It just has that kind of feeling to it.
That's why I like conceptual books, because people can see them in very different ways. And that's one of the beauties of marbling too, is it kind of is open to interpretation so much more broadly than like a straight print with a representative object in it, you know. So representational art doesn't necessarily open your mind the same way that abstract does. So it's just
Yeah.
fun to hear what other people see.
Christina,
Thank you.
I love that you see the twigs as weight, because I didn't until you said that, right? Until you said that, for me, they were decorative and they were artistic and interesting, but they weren't bearing down. And the moment you said it, I could feel those ends differently.
Yeah.
So
I definitely felt that weight.
Great.
Brava, brava.
Yeah, and to have and to hold that expression, you know, it's like sometimes holding is pressure. It's not a loving touch, it's more aggressive. But there's another component that I kind of enjoyed. Like, why the hell would I even think about putting a stick in my work? Anybody who's been in our book group and gone to some of our field trips may have experienced a special collection library visit we had one time, where the head curator said that like she was not going to have any buttons, ribbons, sticks, and twigs on books in her collection. And she was just really like had a bee in her bonnet about artwork that was too crafty in her mind. And it just kind of was offensive to me that somebody would say that you couldn't figure out a way to creatively and positively use a twig in a piece of art, you know. So over the last couple of years, I've been purposefully kind of sneaking twigs occasionally into the work, just as kind of like a on that comment of that lady, because I don't think it, you know, I think you could take anything on the planet and make it in your own and be successful in how you visually represent something. So saying like no twigs or no buttons allowed in artist books seems kind of silly to me.
And restrictive. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
and I'm with you, and I love natural objects, so I'm inclined right there, you know.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's not like a parade of Michael's Craft products in most artist books, you know. I mean, it's I just thought the lady was weird talking to us as a group that way. And I know every single person sitting around that table listening to her has books that have buttons and twigs and ribbons. And it was just like, really? Yeah. Anyway, I'm glad to share my twig edition with you ladies.
It's that whole art versus craft thing, isn't it? I don't think that exists, but anyway, that's my opinion.
We're not all just ladies.
That's true. Great. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I am going to show Judith's next. And again, you can talk over me as I'm showing it. And
Okay,
it's a big one, so I'll do my best.
okay. So this book is called There's No Place Like Home. For quite a while, I've been wanting to do a piece about refugees. I've never been in this show before, and I did a lot of research for this book about all the statistics about refugees from all over the world. And then I convinced my friend Becky, who lives in a different state, who is here today, and she is a fiber artist and has never been involved with bookmaking. But I convinced her to collaborate with me, so we sent things back and forth. I knew I wanted the pages to be in a footprint. I wanted people to sort of feel like they were walking in their feet. So the pages, I originally was using the inserts from old shoes. They don't take any color very well, and they're very hard to sew through. So I ended up using cork, and we identified 5 or 6 different countries that have the largest populations of refugees. And as we got talking about this project, we changed our focus from the horrors they are running from to the beauty of their homelands that they have to leave. And that's what makes it so gut-wrenching, is that they don't want to leave their countries. They love their countries, but they have to if they want to continue to survive. Sometimes they, are forced to leave. I was planning on putting all of that's my favorite page. That's Becky's page right there, the green one. And we were planning on using all these statistics that I had researched as to add text to it. But then in my research, I found this poem by a man named Benjamin Zephaniah. He is a recently deceased African-British poet, and it says it all. There were no statistics that can make the point that that beautiful poem does. And had I found it earlier, I think we would have interspersed it through all the pages, but most of the book was already put together. So that's
Can we
how
hear the poem?
Oh, it's kind of long.
Oh, it is. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but it's beautiful. You can tell everybody the name and they can look it up.
Yeah, it is long. And I'm not the best poetry reader.
Okay.
We are refugees, and I can put the name in the chat. That's probably the easiest
Thank
way.
you. That would be great.
Yeah, thank you.
And it was great fun to collaborate. I hadn't done that in quite a while. And it really changed the whole aspect of the book changed through that collaboration. It was wonderful.
Wonderful.
Judith, I love that. I love that the shoes went back and forth between you and Becky, that the art was because it feels like it traveled, right?
Yeah.
About refugees who have to travel, and these pages, these feet have already done some traveling. And I think that just adds to the wondrousness of this book.
Yeah, thanks. There were times it was really sad to work on.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And there's so many countries, it was hard to choose some of them.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly, Beck. Do you have anything to add?
No, not really, except I'd never done anything like this before. And the process was wonderful, and being so creative was wonderful. And Judy's very loose as an artist is. And I'm like, what's our job? What's our assignment? What do I have to do next? So I was anxious. And then I just said, just stop it and try to go with the flow. And it was wonderful.
It was
So
great.
I envy all of you for doing this all the time. It was really great.
And whoever is that woman who doesn't like sticks and things, would not like our book at all, because we've got everything in there,
Yeah.
including a shoe. And all those forms are my hiking boots.
I thought it was fantastic. Yeah.
I
Love it.
really like the way you've used the full size shoe, like the full size, the foot. It's not miniature or too big. It's just a full size. I think that works very
Size
well.
mine.
Mine wouldn't fit. I've got big feet.
Yeah, it was a process. It was a wonderful process. And
It
thank you
worked.
to the Kalamazoo Book Arts Center.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think I'm on to Carol Norby. Are you ready? I can show the picture you sent. Sure. Yeah. So, oh man, I thought I had it open. Just a second, let me open it again. Okay. Oops, I guess I'm screen sharing anyway. Can you guys see what I mean for you to see, or are you just seeing all my desktop?
we can see the whole
Max.
thing.
We could see the book.
You
A
should
little
just
bit of desktop.
maximize the window.
I don't know if I can.
Oh, that's that piece that photo I sent to you, huh?
Yeah. Is that okay with you? Do you want me to open the other?
No, it's fine. The thing is, I have had that thing shot. First, I did it, and I was supposed to be shot against a gray background. Well, this is a white piece, so the gray always looked black. And it was actually not accepted in one show because the background looked black. And they specifically said no black backgrounds. And I'm going, oh, well, whatever. But I sent it to a friend of mine in San Francisco who also is a professional photographer and a book artist. And she toiled over shooting this thing over and over. It's so difficult because it is all white and you want to see all that fine cutting. So she sent me back a bunch of photos and I thought, oh, let's see what you guys will do with it. And then I thought, oh, I shouldn't have done that to them because I have so many photos of this crazy piece. Anyhow, Beware of Dragons. And I watched that series, Vikings, that was on a few years ago, and I absolutely was entranced by that whole culture. And I went down the rabbit hole, exploring, trying to find out more and more about that whole Norse culture. And it was mainly the Norse, although there was also a lot of involvement with the Swedes, the Danes, it just, I ended up having my DNA done for the second time and found out that I have Norse blood. And I'm going, well, that's weird. I also have Scottish blood and about equal Scotch to Norse. And I thought, oh, well, I found out that the Norse, the Vikings came actually as Vikings because these people had two phases of coming into a country. They either were trying to find better and more farmland, or they were just coming to rape and pillage and carry everything off they could, especially the gold from the monasteries. And I thought, well, they came into Scotland and they did not change the Scots. Nobody could change the Scots, even though Romans had to build Hadrian's Wall. They were so intense. So they adapted the Scottish names, surnames. And I thought, well, that makes sense that I have some Norse blood. And so that made me go even, or entice me into going even deeper into the whole thing and just having so much fun reading the sagas, the Eddas, and also that William Morris had translated the Eddas years ago. And then did those beautiful Kelmscott Press books, which I ordered one of them, a reproduction of one of the, and they're just sagas of the Norsemen, even though they were written in the 1300s, which Viking era was over by then. And so it was about 200 years later and by someone in Iceland. So it's just been a very fascinating research thing, but also then how do I give a feeling of what these people are all about? And of course, most often their ship's prow had the dragon head on it to terrify whomever they were coming to invade. And I mean, I can see why they'd be terrified, because the people that did the Viking series, it was, of course, a drama. However, they did their homework and there was a lot of accuracy in it. And then as I'm doing my homework on this, I find out there was more accuracy than I had realized. But then how do you show burning and sea and farming and just storms at sea? I tell you, it was just coming up with how, first of all, to carve each panel And it's, it's paper, it's cardstock. So it was really challenging to carve it because I mean, it's stiff, but I needed it to be able to stand up straight. And of course, it couldn't have a backing on it because I'm not cutting through even thicker paper than I already had. And then joining it with the little side pieces. And my friend, Luz Marina Ruiz, who also is the one who did the photography in California. And she teaches at California Fine Arts and at the San Francisco Book Arts Center. That's where the class takes place. And so she's been in a lot of book shows. She loves teaching. And she's the one who told me how to do that side connecting piece because those are like little W's, and you glue one in the back of the first panel and then the other side of it on the back of the second panel and on back and through. So each one of those little connecting pieces, which makes it become an accordion, you can cut each one individually, and then you can make the heights different, and you get lots more lights coming in than the traditional tunnel where you have just that accordion, which blocks out a lot of light, even when you cut a lot into the sides. So it just seemed this was dreams. And I wanted to, dreams, I mean, they're so ethereal. And I thought, oh, white, that would be the perfect thing. So that's basically why I did this. And of course, I do love to cut paper. And I discovered these wonderful little knives called Excel. And they're made in the United States, which I liked as well. So I've been ordering those, and they doesn't tend to break off like they do with X-Acto blades. And so I order them by the hundreds and have a lot of X-Acto, Excel holders, which they make this really nice little ergonomic thing. So you can, it's just XCEL. And I actually emailed or contacted another paper cut artist to find out how what kind of blades she might be using. And she's the one that told me about the Excel. And I thought, boy, I've never looked back since I first ordered the ones I used. And, you go through a lot of blades, but not as quickly as you do with X-Acto blades. And then, someone says, well, why don't you just sharpen the blades? Just make them last longer. And I'm going, are you serious? It's already too much trouble just to keep cutting and cutting. And as long as they don't cause little burrs on the edge of the paper, they last well. And then the minute you see a burr, you are putting it in your discard bottle to recycle in the metals. So anyhow, I just felt like they didn't cost really much more than the X-Acto blades, and actually were maybe a better bargain because they lasted longer. So that's, I'm not being sponsored by Excel. I just spread the words. I wish they were sponsoring me.
That's funny.
All the men, they need an ambassador.
Well, there are a few people on Instagram that I think are sponsored by them, which I don't know how you do that, but whatever. I don't really feel like I want to get that commercial, but other than hopefully selling some work. But, it's just fascinating to me what you can do with just cutting pieces of paper. It's just how it can become something else. And because I love myths, fairy tales, all those kinds of things that I grew up on. And this just carries it out, I guess. I've done a lot of cut paper things, and I think this is one of maybe about the fourth or fifth one I've submitted in the past to the Book Arts in Kalamazoo.
Yeah, it's been 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And Katie always makes me feel like I have to one up myself each time. So I work at it.
Fabulous.
So any questions?
How long do you think it took you to make that?
Oh gosh, months and months.
It seems so intricate.
It is very intricate. And first, trying to decide the size it could be, pushing it as far as I could to the height. Hold on just one second.
I just wanted to say that I think you're referencing here of the dragon, the fire. I'm seeing thatched roofs. I'm seeing hairy Vikings with their beards and their crazy hairdos. I see trees, but I also see antlers. Just tons of ideas coming from these simple waving cut shapes. It's such a great symbol that is so flexible for different ways of conceptualizing. I love it. And your graduations on the sides really do open up ideas for tunnel books in a new way, instead of it all just being a big dark wall on either side that doesn't allow for good light entry. So lots of cool ideas here. Loving it.
Oh, thank you. Well, I also, I'm going to plug Luce one more time. She has been very encouraging in this. And, she does love teaching. If you're ever in the Bay Area, go and see her. She's very hospitable and loves the book arts. I've actually, because she kept the piece for so long trying to, she was buying a new camera, and she wanted to wait and send it back to me until she had the new camera and had practiced with it a bit. And she sent me one of her books. And as a little, I'm sorry I kept it so long. I mean, she's just a fabulous, fabulous person, so generous. And I just credit her with encouraging me to just keep pushing. But she never makes you feel like she's intruding or telling you what to do. That's the one lovely thing, another lovely thing about her. So look her up online on Instagram. I think she does Facebook as well, which I don't do, but she posts some beautiful work. And you just have to see her too. And then you say, aha, you haven't been influenced by her. But she's a printmaker and does huge, those giant 3x3 blocks. And then she cuts them up, makes these tunnel books and her colors are just exquisite. She's originally from Colombia and reflects that beautiful Latin American sense of color. But yeah, definitely look her up. I think you would, if you like this cut paper, you need to see what she does. So
What's her name?
Any questions?
Could you
Just what's her name again?
Luz, L-U-Z, Marina, M-A-R-I-N-A, Ruiz, R-U-I-Z.
Thank you.
And I think she goes under Lapis Lazuli on Instagram.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell her that I've made a big plug for her just because I love her dearly. We've become wonderful friends. Just thank you, Internet. So anyhow, any more questions?
Exquisite. It's just exquisite. I have to say, it's just exquisite. And I have those little knives, and I don't have the success you have with them. Not because of the knives, because of myself.
I came from a background of freelance collage illustration, and I had cut, I would take magazine scrap and create these weird little scenes. And I did a lot for computer, WordPerfect back in the day. Oh, they paid a lot of house payments, thank you. But anyhow, I think that I was so comfortable with, in those days, using X-Acto knives and X-Acto blades. And they just became like pencils to me. And it just carried over into the next phase of using paper. I like doing it with handmade paper too. I also learned how to make handmade paper. And I found that certain types of handmade paper are wonderful for cutting. Some I don't recommend because they're very fibrous, but you know, I've made some things with Locta that can be tricky to cut because it is more fibrous, but some of it's thicker, you know, different weights. But some of the handmade paper that I did with just cotton avoca is really, if I have it in maybe about a 70-pound weight, text weight, it's very nice for cutting. So a little recommend there for, you know, if you want to try this kind of thing. Just
Thank you.
anything else? Ply me with questions, please.
I have a question.
Pardon?
Oh, are those layers all from one paper?
From
one paper?
Oh, one type of paper, yes. But no, they're all separate sheets of paper. It's I think, if I'm remembering correctly, it's maybe a Strathmore. And I can't remember now if it's Strathmore pastel 80-pound cover or whether it's a Nina. I think it might be probably a Nina smooth cover. And it would be about a 70-pound cover, I think, maybe 80-pound cover. So yeah, it was challenging to cut, trust me.
But it looks at the bottom. It looks like it's folded like an accordion.
Well, the reason it looks like it's folded like, I mean, it is an accordion. It's just that it's not one long connecting thing. How do I don't know if you can see this, but you know, on the bottom, let's see, how do I don't know how to show you this. On the right side bottom, which would be over in here, you see those little, you know, zigzags. And they're like little W's. You know, you have one that goes this way, this way, this way, this way. Can you see my this way, this way, this way, this way? I'll show you just a second.
How many pieces of paper is it ultimately?
There are 9 panels. Let's see.
I think what they're trying to assess is how you made your accordion sides, and you were suggesting you hinge together W's that were individually cut to make that side panel longer.
It's like,
thank you.
You only make like this kind of a thing, okay? It would just be, let's see, wait a minute.
Let me swap the share so you're bigger for people to see.
Okay, pretend this is one of those side panels. You see, it's like a little W. And you take, after you've done your cutting, you take the side, pretend this is your, let's see. Pretend this is one of the panels. So you glue it on the back of this panel. You've got the next panel coming right behind, and you glue that to the back of the next panel. And then the next panel you glue to this back of this little connecting piece, and it goes back all the way like that. Does that make sense at all?
Yes.
Yes, it does. Thank you. To me, it makes sense.
Yes, thank you. It does. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, see, this was something that Luz explained to me over the phone. And I kept experimenting and trying. I thought, this is a great thing. It's worked so much better than one long panel. And if you go online and you look at some of her work, you'll see how they're doing the same type of thing. That way it gives you, I think, more flexibility, and just, of course, more light can come in, especially because I've done pieces with all black, and I've actually submitted some pieces into Kalamazoo Accordion in the past and used that particular way of connecting them. So, because black is, how are you going to see all the little panels, get down in there?
Thank you so much. Helen is going to go next. And if anyone else that I'm looking at the list of people who have responded to me by email about sharing their work, and I might just be missing, or you may be under a different name. If there's someone that would like to show your work and you haven't already, please message me in the chat so that I can make sure that you are here. Or, I didn't miss you, or, whatever. So I think, wait, is Jessica here? Oh, you are here. So I'll have you go after Helen, okay? Okay. So Helen, would you like me to hold up your book?
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's good. And then, let's see, I'm back. Wait, oh, sorry, it was closed, so I didn't see it. All right.
Well, I'm Helen Spielman, and this is my first time being at the Kalamazoo Illustrated Accordion. I feel incredibly honored to be beside some of all of you wonderful book artists. I've only been making books for 4 years, and I love to make books about nature and some other topics. And I made this book with some vintage pictures from a book that I cut out. And then one thing I love to do is use stamps. I know the other woman who didn't like the woman who didn't like using stamps and things. Here I am, and I weave strips of paper into stamps, and I just love doing that. It is so fun. And then I chose colors of woven stamps that go with the particular bird that was shown. And then on top of that, I also chose a bird paper to use for the cover, and those are tiny little buttons that are birds. So this is a very birdy book, and I had so much fun making it, and that's pretty much all I have to say about my book.
Thank you so much for sharing. Is there anyone who has any comments or questions?
I'm a real bird fan and I love it, but I really do love the flow of the birds. And then you have the sort of squareness of the weaving and the stamps. And I just think it's beautiful.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes.
I'm feeling
I love
like
it. I love.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was saying I was feeling a bird feeder concept almost, like this little structure, this little, it's very boxy, and it feels, the weaving almost feels like a good reference, like the wires that go through some of the bird feeders that I've seen, like especially like the suet holders. I don't know, and they're near the branch.
Or
So
the
it kind of feels
nests.
maybe like you're referencing a bird feeder. Was that in your mindset?
Not at all.
Interesting. Okay.
I can see how someone could view it like that, and I find that fascinating.
the whole book is just beautiful, but each piece almost reminds me of those very special stamps you can buy sometimes. You know, when you get a special edition stamp, I think they would make wonderful edition stamps.
Well, if you would like to write to the U.S. Postal Service, you know, I wouldn't mind.
Thank you so much.
And I want to thank you, Katie, for a wonderful experience because you've been so communicative and encouraging. And this has been a wonderful experience.
And now, Jessica, if you want to unmute, I'll show yours the same way, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. So, hi, I'm Jessica, and this is my book is called Where Do You Call Home? It's the first book I've ever made. It's not maybe the best. I would definitely do it differently if I now, but it's very special to me. So it was kind of hard to construct because I wanted to use this star paper, which is very fibrous and very hard to cut. And my idea had been to bind the book with a whip stitch or a blanket stitch at the top and the bottom. It didn't work out. So it's, again, the glue kind of dried and lifted it, but I would do it differently in the future. But my kind of thought was there's just all these ideas about what home is and what home means to every individual. And home isn't necessarily a place. And so I was thinking of phrases like, is your home a safe place? What does home taste like? You know, what's your favorite memory of home? Just kind of questions designed for people that interact with the book to think about what home means. And I bought like vintage photos with houses in them and then cut them out. If there was a person like on the front cover, I stitched the figure out to kind of make them like shadow people. And I stitched did I stitch all the books on or did I glue the books on? I don't even remember now. I actually tried to get this done for last year's accordion book show and I didn't finish it in time. So, but I bought all these like star sequins to try to kind of embellish each page in different ways. And I used the Sulky hollow shimmer and holographic plastic threads for augmenting and kind of drawing attention to different pages. And yeah, it was, there was a nice accident actually on some of the pages. I went to my local library to print the words out. And while I was printing it, some of the pages ran out of ink, which made a really nice faded quality to some of the phrases, which I think really accentuated the concept that like home is a place that can fade over time for me. And yeah, my normal thing is I embroider on paper and vintage photos. But I used to live in Kalamazoo and I love going to see the accordion book show. So I kind of got the concept to try to make one. And it was fun and I would like to get more into bookmaking in the future.
I thought that you had already shown in the show before. I thought I
Oh.
recognized your name. So I was really surprised when you said that this is the first book you have made. It's really beautiful.
I used to work at the KIA, so maybe that's why you know my name.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I like the idea of the star paper because the stars are above all of us wherever we are, whichever home we're in, the stars are always there. So that kind of brings it all together. I like that.
Oh, I like that interpretation. Thank you.
I like the fact it's a collage. I think you've done a nice job, really, and using all these different types of homes. I mean, it's fun.
Yeah, if I were to do it again, knowing what I know now, because I wanted it to be two-sided, but the paper, it's too fibrous to cut nicely. So, and it's too short. So it had to be like individual panels and I tried sizing it out and I'm not a very precise person. So of course it didn't work out. But if I were to do it again, I would have done 2 long strips and then done the panels individually on them and then bound the front and the back together, if that makes sense, with the blanket stitch or the whip stitch. Because like I had intended to bind it that way to give it some more structure, and that didn't work out because, you know, on this panel the house is on the bottom and on that panel the house is at the top, and so it just interfered with the embroidery I'd already done because I planned the panels individually. So I tried to add some extra binding with a clear stitch on certain ones where the paper was folding up too much, and it even looks like now that it's there, it's folding up even more than when I had it at home. So not the best construction, but a really meaningful book for me.
Well, what you do is you just make another one and just you
That's what
learn
I
a
was gonna
lot from
say.
this one. And so the next one, you can see what happens, you know, what you've learned, put that to use, and you'll come up
Engineer it
with
again, yeah.
I mean, I think that's part of the fun of book arts is I make lots of prototypes. And with each one, I've learned a new approach, a new sort of concept. And also you improve with each one. Although not always, I certainly stitched in signatures upside down more than once and had to take the whole thing apart because it seems like it's always a second signature. And I think, why is that one hanging out? Oh, it's because it's upside down. Anyhow, it's the more you make, the more you learn. And I think it's admirable. That is your first book. That's pretty incredible. I look at some of my first books and it's like, oh my goodness. But hang on to it because you'll look back in a year or so and you'll go, wow, I have learned a lot. I've really come a long way. So there you go.
Well, thank you. I actually even think that because the glue is lifting so much that I could just take the panels off in the end and remake it. And I'm not sure who Emily is, although Emily might know me based on their comment, but thank you. I also don't agree with the art versus craft conversation. I work in an art museum and I think that craft is an incredibly important part and shouldn't be distinguishable for, you know, that kind of people who think craft doesn't belong in a museum. I don't think I disagree strongly.
I totally agree with what you are saying. It's an ongoing thing. And you look at some of these fiber artists and quilt artists who are placed in that craft division, but their pieces are so fabulous. They are way beyond just crafts. They are well crafted, but they're beautiful pieces of art. And they deserve the same respect that a fine art. And I've seen some fine art pieces that I'm thinking it's not very well crafted. It's a nice concept, however. So, yeah.
Yeah, that word craft has really taken a big hit in the last 20 years. I teach a lot at the Fuller Craft Museum near Boston here in Brockton, Massachusetts. And they have 5 areas of traditional craft that are in that museum and that they teach. So they fight against the idea of what does that word really mean. Most people don't necessarily understand it. So it's a little bit muddled about that word, and it's unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit of a feminist thing too, you know, because the male artists and the females just doing the craft stuff. But that's a whole other conversation.
I mean, miss, what's the word? Oh my God. It's the male perspective. Yeah. I think craft art is all creativity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you think about what about men who do ceramics? That's a craft in a lot of people's minds, but you can take a piece of ceramic and you can make it into an exquisite piece of art. I just think it's silly, a waste of time.
Me too.
Have like a division because it takes both to pull it off. There you go. I'm an opinionated old broad.
Me too.
So I have Catherine's book in my hand. Would you like me to just show it this way and you talk over me?
Yes, please.
Okay, perfect. Let me give myself spotlighted again.
So I'm Kathy Lobo and I live in the metropolitan Boston area. actually Arlington, Massachusetts, is a place that's near and dear to me. The local art center had a call for art, which actually is due on the 9th of March. And that was why this book was made. They wanted to combine poetry and book art, or no, poetry and art. And so I reached out to someone I knew, a neighbor who is a poet. He was poet laureate in Arlington for several years. And he's also now the president of the New England Poet Society. It's like one of the oldest poetry societies in the United States. And at first he said he was too busy and maybe not interested. And I said, okay. And then he looked at some of my work online, and we know each other, but we just had never talked about books. And he sent me the galley of a book that he's just published and asked me to look at several of the poems. And one of the ones that spoke to me was the poem called For Now. And it's about himself and his mother. The profiles here are my son and me, because I wanted a son and, mother. And I'll read the poem. Each spoon is one line from the poem. So it's For Now. Near the end, she stopped eating altogether one evening, when I brought chicken soup shoaled with rice, a quick shake of her head, whispering, for what? And yet in sleep, her mouth moved constantly, making a meal. Of departure, watching her, I wondered, was the opposite of hunger grief, grace, love, or need? What feeds on our silence? Not that it would have made a difference, but I wish I'd proposed we take turns. With the spoon, a mouthful, countering what for with for now. So I don't know if you could tell where the poem, I tried to pause a little bit between the lines, but each spoon has one of the lines of the poem. And I like flag books, so anyway, and they're dynamic spoons, they're warping there a little bit, but anyway, we didn't know for the show that will be at the Arlington Center for the Arts, it's called Symbiosis. It sounded like they wanted something that could be flat and framed on the wall. And I thought, well, this could do that. And then you could really read the poem. I've submitted it. We'll see if they accept it or not. But I also decided to make an edition of 4 because I want to share the poem with the poet, but also the art with the artist. So you have, I think, book 1. And he and I both signed on the back. The covers of the book are also their profiles, but different colors, and the names and a little bit of a description of it is again on spoons. So I make all different kinds of books. I've been making books my whole life. I've had some formal training. I teach myself a lot, and I'm part of the New England Book Artists that Christina Hajosi talked about in the beginning, or when she presented hers. And it's been such a delight to have this show as a way to share books. This is my 3rd time to participate. And thank you so much for this opportunity.
I love this book and how the spoons work. And I mean, I'm sure you can see it on the video, but it's really cool in person.
What did the
I
poet
like
have to
the
say?
warping. I think it looks good that they warped. They look more like a spoon. I really do.
Yeah, it's kind of pewter gray paper. I sort of thought about, cutlery. Yeah.
I love it.
Well, the poet is absolutely thrilled. He is so thrilled, and he and I, there are several other poems that I'm going to be making some books. There's one called Supermoon, which has to be an edition of 28. So that's the next one I'll work on. I don't know if it will be a concertina. At the moment, it's not looking like it will be, but I do really enjoy this sharing of this form of bookbinding or book creating. So I haven't participated every year, but maybe I skipped 1 year since I started. But as I said, this is such a lovely opportunity. And I'm thinking about making a trip to Kalamazoo, so you might see me. I don't know about the opening, but anyway, we were talking about it today. So
Good. I would love.
Oh, and the poet's cousin lives in Kalamazoo, and he knows about I don't know what his name is, but he knows about the show, and he may be at the opening. So if you see someone looking at that book, maybe say, are you the cousin of Stephen Ratner, the poet?
That'd be cool. I mean, it's not hard to get around Kalamazoo. That would be nice if he came.
Yeah, no, I think he will. I think he will. So thank you for your attention, everyone.
Is there any other questions? Or does anyone else want to show their work? I think that was the last. Oh, I'm sorry if I missed.
I had hoped to show mine.
Who are you? Let me find you.
Denise.
Oh, Denise. Okay.
Stevenson.
Do I have? I didn't write down. Do you have yours ready or?
Well, I anticipated you would because I did email you and then.
Yeah, I don't think I understood. Let me just a second. I don't want to share.
Sure.
Let me find yours real quick and I will share it right in a second. Do I have to stop share to this? Sorry, you have to see this. Okay, there we go. I will be right back and I will open yours and then I'll be able to show it.
I'd like to do it as well. It's Rose and Carol. I think I emailed you.
I didn't get yours, but I will get yours next, okay?
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna open this one. Oops. There's someone else's. I just won't share his when I share. So just a sec. Okay. Can you see it okay?
I can, thank you.
Yep.
So I've been also participating in Illustrated Accordion for a number of years. I missed one, but I've been in 4 or 5 times. And it's probably the book arts event that I promote most among other new book artists, because I just think it's fabulous. But this is the first time I've made a book specific, like I make a lot of accordions, but this is the first time I made one specifically for this show. Last year I was making 100 books and this was like book 97 or 98. And so I took a master sheet, a parent sheet, and just decorated with the acrylic painted circles. And then didn't pay much attention to the size I was going to cut that sheet into while I was doing the painted circles. But then after I cut the sheets, I paid attention as I added ink lines and other things to it. But for me, this is made with a piano hinge out of bamboo skewers as its center. And what I like about it is that accordion pages come out from what is otherwise a book-looking structure. And so it does these various stand-up routines, if you will, that I really like because it can come out, it can be more sculptural. And I really like 3D. I always say I'm more of a 3D artist than a 2D artist, even though book arts is my zone. So I think that's what I have to say about it. I just like this structure a lot. I've got another in this structure that I made earlier last year called Market, and it's currently in the Covett Gallery just down the street from where I live. So that's the book that's in the show. Thank you, Katie.
Yeah, I love it. It's so cool. It probably would be nice to show you know, on the screen in person too, but it is a little more unwieldy because it opens in so many different ways. It's
exactly. Yeah.
I really like the combination of the 3 sort of basic triangle, rectangle, and circle idea, and you've kept it simple, and it's really beautiful.
Thank you. I rounded the corners at the last minute, and I really kind of like that too, that it just
yeah, that works. I was going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, it sort of finished it.
Yeah, that looks great.
I like the idea of an accordion that involves connections that are different on some level. The long, straight sheet of paper, getting off of always doing that, which seems to be a default position on some accordions. I teach accordions. And the minute you start talking about connections and learning how to hinge and do these other ideas, it just kind of elevates everything. The piano hinge is really nicely done here. Looks good.
Thanks. Piano hinge is just a favorite structure for me, so I try to do all kinds of things with it. I Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. And then the other person, Rose, are you Rosemary? What, can you say your last name, please, for me?
Rosemary Burden.
Okay, I have
BURD.
your book here with me. I did get your email. I just didn't connect Rose and Rosemary. So I'll hold it up first and then I'll probably screen share too. I do have it next to me. Except for that, is this?
All right, it's a collaboration. It's absolute 100% collaboration with a friend in Australia, Carol Driver. And she was my first art teacher when I got back into art in the early 90s. And she went to Brisbane to do her master's. And we've kept in touch. So what I do is I make the books and then I send them to her and she paints on them. And then they come back to me and I add bits to it. And then when we've got, I think we must have about 25 of them now altogether. And this is one of our earlier ones. They have to go by mail back and forward between Vancouver, BC and Sydney, Australia. So we have to keep them quite small because it gets expensive mailing them. This piece also has a three-dimensional aspect, which I couldn't mail because they are tiny little wasps' nests. I've got some here, but they're about the size of an egg. And I find that the wasps in this area do a lot of building and then they decide they don't like where they're building. So Carol and I both work with natural things very much. And the front page of one of that front page is that's her painting, and on the other end is mine. It's from an old drawing that I did, and in the middle she's put the watercolor, and then I've added bits after that. So it's a back and forward thing. Sometimes they go back and forward twice. Sometimes they go back and forward more than twice. And this one I think was just a three-way, but it's really fun doing it, and we've got quite a few of them now. So hopefully one day we'll have a show either there or here.
Are you originally from Australia?
No, I'm originally from England, but I've been living in Vancouver, Canada for 50 plus years now. And Carol was from England originally, living in Canada. Then she went to Australia to do her MFA. But both of us usually work in 3D, or installation with some drawing. So this has been quite quite interesting to work flat, but it's not really flat because of the three-dimensional aspect of the accordion book. But it's been great because there's a great conversation. We're forever on Messenger, sending ideas back and forward and talking about this, that, and the next thing.
It makes me think of songlines and some of the Australian Aboriginal work. And maybe I'm just projecting because I've been studying a lot and really love that Papunya.
I think that's coming through, and I agree with you. I think the colors are coming through too, because
Definitely.
the colors there and the colors here are very, very different. Like she lived here in Vancouver for many years, so she's aware of those colors too. Those cutouts were paper cutouts that I did and then sent them to her, and then she frottaged them and put them on the little gray bits. So it's watercolor and cutouts that have been frottaged, and then the drawings on the front and back. So very much a collaboration with the wasps as well, but they're not with you.
Yeah, I was going to say about that. I don't know if it was a book that you submitted before. Once we had one from Canada that had parts of trees, and you guys were talking about the twigs earlier too, and we couldn't send it back because of the international laws about sending, biological matter. So there's not tons of rules, but people in America can send twigs to each other, but over the from country to country, it's not possible.
Australia is very, very fussy. When I was last time I was there, I had to have my I'd gone for a walk in the local park just before I left, so I had to have my shoes washed.
with their history of invasive animals, it makes total sense that they do
Total sense. Oh, I don't have a problem with it at all. I think it's sensible, but yes.
The other thing I was going to say, just from curiosity, we have had a lot of collaborations this year. There's several more in the show, which, some years there's collaborations and some years there's not. But this year was a good year for collaborations. So it's always interesting to see the patterns of how people.
I think COVID actually started a lot, because I know Carol was doing a collaboration with a New Zealand friend during COVID. And that's how we started doing this, because we thought, well, let's keep it going,
Yeah, it's cool. I love the way that this one worked out. So I think, am I correct that this is the last one that I am showing? If anyone else wants to show, that's fine. I was also requested that I show you the gallery space, which I will try to do, but obviously I'm holding pieces in my hand right now. So not everything is on the walls, there's blank shelves. So if anyone would like to share that hasn't shared, they should let me know now. Otherwise, I'll try to walk around with my computer and show you things, but believe me, it's not going to be the best example. Okay, so Liz is saying I can show the installation, so I will try. Just speak up if you don't, want to see it or have something else to say, because I will. See, already I'm having trouble. So it's partly for me trying to figure out the angle of what I'm showing you compared to where it is in real space.
You're doing good. It's quite tricky.
It is really not the easiest. So but I can get quite a bit of this wall.
Well, looking at all of these online, I was so impressed with the variety and how many versions of accordions can be made. To me, it's so exciting. I love the fact that it's strictly accordions, but within there, there's dozens and dozens of ways of approaching it.
I love that too. It's always like Christmas. I don't know. I'm probably like at a worse angle than ever here. Seeing everything come in and unwrapping everybody's work, it's so exciting.
Well, I'm just happy Kalamazoo has a book arts center. When I lived there, there wasn't one. There was the Institute, but I keep thinking I want to go back and visit Kalamazoo.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I think the installation's amazing. All those shelves, that's a lot of work.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I appreciate the fact that all the previous year's galleries are still online on your website, and I use that as a resource and when I'm teaching accordions and other types of structures.
Oh,
I
good.
let people know the link to go check that out, because if you think there's a lot of variation here, just add in all those other online galleries and you'll have your mind blown.
I totally agree.
Yeah,
Thank
I'll
you for
second that.
bringing that up.
I'll third.
Yeah, I'm really happy our website's big enough that we're able to keep everything. I mean, first of all, it's a lot of work of taking all the photos, so it's great that we don't lose them. But also,
I saw red stickers just then. Sorry to interrupt.
Sells this year.
Great.
This one is cool. One of the high school students did it. Oh, I can't get you to see it. You'll see it online. The one that's the phone with the different little
That's a great one.
apps coming out. Yeah, I just love that one. So a couple of high school students participated this year.
That is so great. That's so encouraging.
Yeah, and it's encouraging because they're so awesome that, I don't think that you'd necessarily know right away which ones were from adults and which ones were from high school. Oh, come on. There we go.
I was curious at last year's show if that was from Kellen Doe's classes at.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
Helen is a local teacher here who just, I don't know, she's just great and really lets the kids explore, because you can tell because there's so many different varieties, and they come up with such different varieties. And I've, which way is my camera? Well, I'm trying.
We might be on one of those Viking ships right now.
Don't pay too much attention or you'll get sick. But yeah, she lets them experiment a lot, and it's so cool to see what they come up with.
She's allowed to wear, they're allowed to use twigs and beads, right?
Yes.
Oh, I see mine. I see mine.